Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Welcome back to Startup of the Year podcast. I'm your host, Frank Gruber, also the co-founder and co-CEO of Established, co-founder of Established Ventures, and the team behind Startup of the Year community and this very podcast. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today on this delightful day. We've got a lot to talk about. We're all about alternative funding options and really helping startups along their journey. So excited today about our interview with Becky Center. So she'll be joining us to share her insights on crowdfunding, being one of the largest crowdfunding platforms out there in Indiegogo. She's the CEO of that company. And, if you're not familiar with Indiegogo, it's a crowdfunding platform whose mission is to empower people to unite around ideas that matter and obviously bring them to life. So they've done that quite a few times over the last decade or so, and excited to learn more about what she's up to and how she's taken the helm the last couple of years as she joined in 2022 to lead the effort with Indiegogo. Prior to Indiegogo, she was a general manager at Groupon, as well as a VP of head of product management at HealthJoy, where she was also the general manager. And excited to jump in. So let's get to it with Becky Center.
Well, Becky, let's just jump in. Welcome, Becky. Thanks for being here.
You got given the long bio there.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this is like, I'm going to be here a minute. So, all right, thanks so much. Really appreciate being here. I wanted to just jump in and kind of level set for those. I saw some people said they knew about crowdfunding. Let's just set the table for the what's crowdfunding situation so we can kind of jump in to all the exciting things you've been working on at Indiegogo. So first off, crowdfunding 101, basic.
Awesome. Well, first off, thanks so much for having me. Thanks everyone for being here. So cool to be down at South by Southwest, so I really appreciate it. A little bit about Indiegogo. We were founded over 15 years ago, which is so crazy. My name is Becky. I'm the CEO. I've been with the company 2 years now. But I'll just talk to you a little bit about the founding story, which I do think is really interesting and a big part of our DNA still today. So our original co-founders, they came from a couple different industries. They were looking at banking, they were in film and nonprofit, and kind of looking around and saying, hey, what we're seeing is that access to capital is really guarded and kind of like there's gatekeepers who make all of the decisions. And they started particularly in film, which is kind of cool that we're here at this big film.
Yeah, there's a lot of films here.
Yeah, and they said the people who have really interesting stories to tell are often not the ones who have that access and network to be able to get funded to tell their story. And it was really based on this idea of, meritocracy and the people should decide and the best ideas should win. So kind of looked around and said, hey, let's open it up. Let's come up with this concept. And, it was really the term in the industry was brand new at the time. Let's let the people decide. And if enough people are interested, they'll fund the project and the project will get made. So that's how we started. At the time, just one more minute on history. At the time, the idea was it would be great if these were investments, but it couldn't be. So we were actually just talking about accredited investors and Jobs Act, and there was just different legislature back then. So what was called perks-based or rewards-based crowdfunding was invented. And so at Indiegogo, your backers, these campaigns are not investments. You're not backing for equity, you're backing for a perk. And so what that means is if it's a film, maybe you can get your name in the title, or you would get sent a DVD at the end. Right. And you're just really supporting the project. And then over time, we've expanded into art, books, publishing, physical hardware, every industry, you name it. And so we have stayed true to that perks-based, rewards-based crowdfunding. And now over time, you do see equity-based and so many other real estate crowdfunding, all sorts of things. Yeah. But that's kind of the landscape and how it's gone.
The crowdfunding has exploded. You've been in it for a long time now, and you've continued to do the perks. How much crowdfunding have you done? Like how many, companies have you crowdfunded or have used the platform to crowdfund?
Yeah, we've done over 1 million campaigns over the years. Wow. And every which way and type you can imagine. There's, we could get into, some of it, but it's fascinating, ideas that will just show up and what will get, funded.
Yeah. So can you tell me? So you took over the company 2 years ago, right? What's it been like since you took it over, and like kind of what's your leadership's kind of style been to kind of continue it to grow? Because it's been now, out there for a little while. It's not technically a startup anymore. It was a while back, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, at 15 years, we're a little more of an established company, but we're in the middle. We're still sort of very agile, very scrappy. We try to stay in that mindset because that's also our customer base. Our customer base is entrepreneur, innovation, new to market. So we keep that DNA and try to stay really flexible. I would say coming in, super interesting to come in and be the CEO and take over a company that, not only you yourself did not found, but is so beloved and known by so many people that everyone has an idea of what it is and what it could be, and make it kind of that for everybody, but also my own. So it's been really cool. I would say 2 years in, I feel pretty like strongly like this is my baby now, and we're doing a lot of cool things. We are. We're going to see a lot of cool changes on the horizon, and we're expanding quite a bit. We're already global, and we're really, looking for the future and what's next.
All right, so talk about some of those initiatives, like in kind of the direction you've been seeing it go, because you mentioned that the evolution from the beginning. As you continue to evolve, what are you seeing, and what are you planning to do over the next, I guess, 3 to 5 years? I don't know.
Yeah, so Indiegogo's mission has been and is to empower people to unite around ideas that matter to them and together bring those ideas to life. So everything we're doing is how can we bring more ideas to life? And of course, we are known for crowdfunding, but the crowdfunding campaign itself is typically 30 to 60 days. And we're often working both with the innovators who have those ideas and with their backers for much, much longer than that 30 to 60 day time period. And we've been doing it almost unofficially and organically over the years. So as I've come in, we've been building out a lot more just product support services, kind of before and after and through that whole process, because as everyone here knows, this is kind of like Founder's House. It can be lonely and it can be hard, and that network and that community and support is really helpful, and that's where we want to sit and be.
And you've got a large community. I mean, you've got a lot of people use it. And so I think that's really powerful, and I think that, as people get started, it sounds like you're even like helping create more success, right? Because at the end of the day, if they're only with you for like 60 days,
yeah,
it's not easy even to do crowdfunding, right? Like, let's just be honest. Like, there's you got to prime the pump, you got to find the people. What are some of the things you guys are doing to kind of do that to help them? Because last thing you want is people to come to your platform, try to do this thing, not be successful. I mean, it's not a win for anyone, right?
You're exactly right. It's really hard, and the time-limited nature makes it harder. I think the biggest misconception is that you could show up and put something on the screen and just see what happens over time, but that's not really the case. That's very unique about this. You have to put a lot of work in behind the scenes that no one ever sees, and then you see the splashy, headlines like funded in one day, $1 million raised in one day.
Magically.
But it's not one day. They worked really, really hard, like everything to get there. And we have campaign strategists, people who work with them, help them get ready, make sure we'll tell people you're not ready to launch, or we want to make sure you're set up for success. And so there's just so much that goes into it. And we have a great network of other companies, in the ecosystem that we can refer to, that we work with, that we've seen be successful, that help people really know what they're getting into and plan and be purposeful and achieve their goals.
Oh, that's great. And so, I guess, is there a vertical that you know of that's like doing better at it than others from your perspective?
So I would say a couple answers to that question. Like sometimes there's these verticals that just surprise us. So really funny, in the last year, glamping, like these absolute luxury camping sites have sort of shown up and are new to crowdfunding.
Like actual sites, like places, like locations, or
hotels,
wow.
like actual like high-end outdoor interesting hotels, and that was new for us, and that kind of came and has become a thing, and now we've built out some playbooks. We know how to help look at, do they have the right permits, is this feasible, what do they need, how are they planned? So there's some interesting things there, but in
that
general,
could just be a pretty picture at the end of the day. How do you know?
Yeah, exactly. So we have to build out like policy and process around that. So once in a while that happens, which is super cool. I would say in general, things that are very like mission oriented or kind of like niche passion oriented do the best. And so some examples of that might be anything eco-friendly, and in particular e-bikes and e-scooters and e-mobility in general. Climate things tend to do really well. Anything around pets, people just love their pets.
Pets are huge, yeah.
People love pets. People love independent filmmakers who have a mission and they're really bringing awareness. So we tend to have a crowd who likes things that are either very new, very unique, or very mission driven.
Do you guys do anything mission driven too with them, like with some of these filmmakers, like?
Yeah, we try to feature where we can. We try to support. The really cool thing about crowdfunding is it does break down those traditional barriers, and we see things that women and minority-run campaigns tend to be more successful. And my kind of hunch is that they also tend to be more vulnerable and willing to put themselves out there and be authentic and tell the story, and that's what wins with crowdfunding is like your backers want to know who you are and why, and that's a little different than being really polished, and kind of hiding the scrappy behind the scenes stuff in other forms.
Yeah, definitely. Have you seen, like, we talked about some of the trends you're seeing. Have you seen, I'm curious because it's always been a buzzword the last few years anyway, AI companies use your platform? Because that's a hard thing to kind of show unless it's a prototype of some sort. So what are some of those kind of edge cases where you've seen the trend there, but not like...
Yeah, we're just starting to see. I mean, I think AI has been mostly web application, which we don't tend to have as much of. We really have more like... When we talk about physical products, usually it's more direct-to-consumer, home things. So it's starting to happen. I mean, I think what does happen, and there's a lot of industry chatter, is just AI-generated art and music and things that kind of take away from creators. And so we're really looking at that, like, how can AI be used to be additive and to be supportive, but not take away from? Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really interesting topic that I think the whole industry is looking at right now.
All right. That's interesting. I was even thinking at CES, we saw like a little like a translator app, robot. Was it Rabbit? Is something called? Something like that. So I'm curious, do you see any of those types of products? And you do a lot more hardware.
Yeah.
So what are some of the interesting hardware kind of things you're seeing?
I think I might have been there. I was at a CES too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So we see things like that. I mean, my goodness. We're always seeing different products like, I'm trying to think of some new one. I mean, just everything like home items. The Pebble ice maker, which is now kind of household, was originally an Indiegogo. There's been a lot lately in COVID, we saw a lot of in-home hobbies, so projectors, tech and gadgets around the house, a lot in photography, a lot in, again, like outdoor camping, sports. Really hobbyists, I think, where we're seeing, and these are interesting things because you might run your analysis and say, oh, I don't know if the TAM is there, it's too niche, and a bigger company might not pick it up and run with it, but Indiegogo allows the company to find their audience and their market, and if they have enough people, they can make it happen. And so we see...
it's a good test in some ways, right?
Yes, yeah.
Litmus test there. What's the biggest campaign you've seen while you've been there? Like the biggest one, you're like, oh, that was like crazy.
A huge one.
Yeah.
We recently had a home power generator that just went like absolute gangbuster. I think people were looking at, again, everyone's investing more in their home. So that was huge, but
like a generator that runs the house even if the power goes out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder if what's influenced that. I saw some movies recently that were kind of like doomsday-ish, so I'm curious.
There's been a lot of doomsday movies. Yeah, and also they're bringing the price point down and they're making it affordable, and people are spending more time at home and are thinking about those kinds of things. And so, you just get these like really, like maybe stuff that was more commercial grade that's become more consumer grade and affordable.
So the barriers come down.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't even mention it, thinking about weather and climate, things like that have changed to kind of make it a little bit maybe better to have one of those.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So moving along here, so partnerships are important in business, right? You've probably done partnerships before. Have you done any recently with like Indiegogo that they've kind of continued to like help propel you guys forward?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of relationships with. So what's funny about crowdfunding in particular is it's become a whole industry, and there's a lot of players. So marketing agencies, people who will help you take professional photos of your prototype, people who will help you manufacture, people who will help you ship and fulfill eventually.
Right.
Digital advertising.
So there's like a whole economy of
It's an entire,
crowdfunding pieces. Like
and there's not one size fits all. I mean, everyone has different needs and the right spot for them. So we know and work with a lot of those companies, and have that relationship and are able to help connect.
That's great. So if you got an idea, like I want to do this, well, I don't know, would be good, like a solar power generator or something. You guys could like help figure out, like there might be people that might be able to help.
Yeah, and often there are these kind of industry players who have done a lot. People are always looking for someone who's done something somewhat similar to them before, so they've seen it, so they can give more custom advice and guidance.
And you said earlier that you do like little guides, so like the glamping, it's turned into like a niche. You're like, we got this. Like,
yeah.
here,
Come talk to us, and we've got like an in-house expert who will help you with not everything to create your site, of course, but what we let you do the thing that you're great at, and then we help make the rest easier.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So you've obviously worked with a lot of different groups, and then you have a global audience as well, right?
We are global. We you can run a campaign, you can back a campaign from pretty much anywhere.
Was it global before you joined or after?
We've been global, so we always built the tech to be really scalable, and we're in like more countries than there are countries, because we're in territories too.
There aren't even countries. Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're everywhere. Okay. Internet is so powerful.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you was, with that in mind, how do you have to like cater your offerings? Because everyone's a little different in how they handle things. They got the monetary side of it. Like, what does that look like from your perspective? And are you guys thinking about that as a constant?
Yeah, it's funny.
thing?
I think where it comes up, we definitely see different trends that different locations are interested in. I think also when you think about like UI UX, there are just different expectations or optimizations sort of location based. So that is something to think about. Also language, like you mentioned, translating. And I think one thing we really want is people to feel like they can be their authentic self, tell their story, but reach a global audience. So that's like kind of future things we're looking at is how, maybe we can use some translating features or things to bring that, because we're trying to connect and kind of bring people closer to other people who care about what they care about.
Okay. And then we talked about folks that are super successful, talked about partnerships, trying to hit all the things you need when you're kind of a startup, because we have a really startup-focused audience or audience that listens. Yeah. And so wanted to talk a little bit about failure.
Yep.
So you've got companies that fail.
Yep.
What do you do, like from an Indiegogo perspective, if they do fail? Like, is there like a path that you can help them with, like path forward, I guess?
No, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Failure is a part of it. And I mean, we all know, because we're kind of in this industry, we're always talking about fail fast. I'm always talking to my team about fail fast, and that does happen. So what we see is, what we do, we have probably different strategies depending on where they are in the process. Sometimes someone will launch and they'll think they've got it, and they just don't raise what they need, and then they can't go and make that film or produce that thing. And in that case, we'll usually suggest they just, they refund or they pause and they go back and they reconsider. Other times it's further along. They are actually maybe manufacturing like a coffee grinder, and it turns out that the components they need were more expensive or just the quality's not there. And then they're further along, and then that's a little more difficult conversation. And the biggest thing we suggest is transparency and authenticity. So at that point, you're talking to those who backed your campaign. You're supposed to be giving updates every month. Here's where we are. Here's the hurdles we had. Here's what we need to do. Here's how we, and ultimately some shut down, and that's part of it. But the more transparent they can be, I mean, I think everyone, a part of why you're backing is to hear the story and be a part of the journey. And if we don't embrace that sometimes failure will happen, then no one will take the risk and we will not have innovation. And so like we do need, as a community, to be okay with it when it happens, so that, we tell someone, keep trying, try again.
Yeah, and so, with that, that kind of continued support, is there like a pathway to get them back on in a little while later? Do you have like all that kind of playbooks?
We see people all the time who will maybe launch, didn't get the results, they pull back, they go away, they do some refining, and they come back, and maybe their price point wasn't right, or maybe they didn't know who their audience was, and they'll come back, and then they'll be successful.
We got an audience question here. Did you want to ask a question? Sure. What was the question? Albert. We'll repeat it. All right, so if you've had entrepreneurs that have multiple ideas, they're just idea machines, which there are a lot of people like that, and they've tried one idea, it didn't work out, and then they, I guess, try the next idea. Like, do you help them understand that maybe they didn't, their first one, they should move to the next idea or something like that? Do you get that in the detail?
So I'd say like a lot of times they're going to be transparent. Like the backer community typically is tracking. So I think as long as things are above board and they've been communicative, they've followed the guidelines, they haven't burned their customer base, they can come back and try again. And that definitely happens. And the other way happens too, where people don't, act above board, and then it's a lot harder. That's like life too. You don't burn your bridges, but for sure.
Are you seeing with the recent, so there's been this crunch in funding towards venture funding, right, into startups, and we're seeing a lot of it too. We're seeing a lot of companies that come through our community that I've been raising for a long time. It started last year, or maybe even longer than that. They're just buckling down and making it through. Have you seen that trend impact your platform at all? Like maybe they'll just try to do a campaign, or just because they need the lifeline of some sort. Even I know it's not always success, and maybe a little bit it's more as to get the word out or whatever. But also have you seen anybody do that and seen more influx towards your way? You know?
Yeah, I would say it's less the lifeline. Again, because of the radical transparency.
Right.
But what we do,
they may see it as a lifeline. I guess.
Right. But what we are seeing is traditional funding right now is tight.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the advice that VCs might be giving is, hey, I need more proof before I fund you. And then that's a great candidate to go off, crowdfund, and be like, hey, not only did I fund, but I have my audience, and I've shown that, and I've got a win on the board. I've got a real data point. Now I've also learned who's my target profile. I've just gone through a lot more, and I'm a lot more sophisticated to go back and get funding and get VC funding, and that happens all the time, and we are seeing that right now. That we're getting a lot more of those folks earlier stage.
So it could be a great strategy for traction, for
Absolutely.
showing traction
Yeah.
if you're new. So that's a great point. And a lot of times we hear that question, hey, I'm getting turned down from VCs or whatever. What should I do? I'm figure out how to create traction. It could be anything. But that's a great point.
They want to see real data, not mock-up.
And you've got a
data.
reputable company that's been doing this for a long time. So I guess what is a barrier for somebody that wants to do that? And obviously, there's only certain companies can do it. It's not going to work for every. It's not you don't have a ton of software company or web companies on your platform. But I guess if you're a hardware company or some of the other you mentioned earlier, what does that look like for them if they want to get involved and use Indiegogo?
Well, I would say we don't have a ton of time. So if you are in that, come reach out, and we would get a campaign strategist to talk to you, and they can really evaluate, help you out, see where you're at, just because everyone is so unique where they are. But my team has seen it all. So yeah, shameless plug. Reach out to us if you're considering that.
That's great, though, because they may think, I just go to a website and fill a bunch of stuff out and that's it. But it sounds like there's a little bit of conversation.
So one thing that does differentiate us is we have a lot of people who will help. And you can reach us. You can get a phone call. You know me now, so you can email me too, or LinkedIn. And yeah, we really help. We want people to be successful, and we want them to help, to understand how to use the platform to the best that they can.
Great. And I know we're almost at time here. So can you just share anything else you guys are working on that's exciting? It gets you super excited to keep doing this every single day. What's the one thing you're man, that's...
So I will say it's not exactly what you're asking, but the thing that gets me excited every day is the people, both my team, who are just the most energetic, mission-driven, caring, innovative people there are, and then we get to work with all of these, innovators out there in the world, people who are trying to make a difference and make a change and taking a risk every day and passionate. And so, it's tech, but it's the people that gets me super, super excited. I think we do have some good changes coming up. We're really expanding, and we're gonna be seeing a lot more from Indiegogo in the coming months. So I'm just super, super excited to be on the journey.
That's great. And I think you did answer the question. That is a great answer. And that's what I was looking for, is what is it that drives you? And that's important, and it obviously shows that there's a lot of heart here as well. So I appreciate you being here today and taking the time.
Well, I really enjoyed that session with Becky Center. That was really interesting. Obviously, we did that at our established house at South by Southwest 2024. If you're interested in getting involved in another established house in 2025, please do reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And obviously, it was great hearing from Becky Center as well. As Indiegogo has become a staple for anyone crowdfunding, looking to crowdfund around hardware or some of these early stage companies that they're trying to grow. So excited to have her join us today and share how she's leading into the future with Indiegogo. And for those unfamiliar, go to Indiegogo.com, learn more. There's a lot of great resources there. All right, well, that's the episode for today. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you have a startup idea, today is a great day to start up. Not tomorrow, not the next day. Get it going, get it started, iterate. And you're not going to learn anything if you don't, start, right? You got to get in there and get going. So it's a great way to do it, and encourage you in doing so to join our community for access to expert advice, as well as resources, as everything, everything can get to kind of elevate that company that you're getting going. So go to startupofyear.com or soty.link/apply to get started today. And we'd love to have you join us. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great opportunities, and we're continuing to update the program with lots of new opportunities as we speak. Until next time, I'm Frank Gruber. Remember, hug your loved ones. Don't forget to do that, as well as go make some waves in the world already. Jeez, get it going. Don't listen to me anymore. Good luck out there starting up. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.